carried.
All right, Mr. Cope has a few opening comments before we call the meeting to order.
The Hoover City Council meeting will be starting in just a minute. If you'll please remember to silence your devices.
I'm speaking to those that are online.
And also, too, we have sign language available in the video feeds. If you look for the ASL interpreter, that service seated. Council.
Ready, Mr. Cope?
Yes, sir.
Let's also know that Dr. Middlebrooks is here virtually. So when it comes time for voting, we'll need to be able to slow down long enough to let him participate. So, going to call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Council President Smith,
Here.
Council Pro Tem Green,
Here.
Councilmember Lyda,
Here.
Councilmember Middlebrooks,
Here.
Councilmember Murphy,
Here.
Councilmember Posey,
Here.
Councilmember Shaw.
Here.
All members are present. If the clerk would please handle our invocation and Mr. Posey the pledge. If you'd all please stand.
If you'll please bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for us being able to meet here together. Please safeguard the Hoover residents, businesses, officials, employees that work in the city, and those who visit. Please help, heal, and comfort those with COVID-19 and protect them and comfort those caring for them also. In the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, amen.
Chair is open for a motion on the minutes.
Mr. President, I move for approval of that reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I guess because Dr. Middlebrooks isn't here, we will continue with roll call votes. Make sure that he is heard. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Green,
Aye.
Mr. Lyda,
Aye.
Dr. Middlebrooks, Mr. Murphy,
Aye.
Mr. Posey,
Aye.
Mr. Shaw,
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye. Of course, there's something they use in Montgomery called the short roll. Anybody wants to skip Raven up for that. Next, we have announcements, reports, recognitions. Mayor?
Thank you, sir. We are able to return to our tradition of recognizing our wonderful employees. Tonight we have a number of them here that we want to take an opportunity to recognize. All these together here. So when our employees reach a 20-year milestone, we've taken the opportunity to recognize them and bring them before the council and our citizens. Tonight we have 20 years of service, Michael Cornwell. Michael, you would step in. Michael, you don't mind just stepping up here right in front of the Yeah, that looks proper distance. Michael has been with the police department dispatching, primarily working with our dispatch and our radio system. He's the emergency communications technician. He's been here since May 22nd of 2000. His primary duty is managing the public safety radio system, which is an incredible responsibility. When you think about how big Hoover is, so 50 square miles, we cover 90,000 people from 2 counties, just an incredible job, and it's got to work. Our police officers and our firefighters depend on this gentleman and depend on the equipment that he puts in their cars and maintains for them each and every day, that it's going to work and work properly, just like that. And we're so grateful that he handles that. In addition to that, he handles all the 911 center. So when calls come into 911, he maintains that for us. Just a tremendous responsibility overall, and we're so proud of what he does. I've worked with Mike for many, many years when I was in the fire service, and the thing that I remember and notice and know most about him is that he gets it done. You call him, he's on it, gets on it, takes care of it, he pours his heart into it. He's not a clock watcher. So with that, we're so grateful that you've been here 20 years, and we want to recognize you for that and to present you with this pin.
If he can, with his arms reached, if he can pick up both of those TV monitors, gotta be able to make it all the way to the car.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Next is Mindy White. Is Mindy here tonight?
Yes, sir. Yeah, she's here.
Mindy, do you know where the star spot is right here in front of it? I guess it'd be in back of those video boards. So between the two.
Right. In front.
Pull anything out? So Mindy White Mindy has been here 20 years, and she was hired as a computer application support specialist on May 15th of 2000 and promoted in 2013 to an application system specialist. She's worked and she's overseen really a multitude of projects throughout the city, particularly related to IT. In 2019, she obtained a degree on her own in information systems, and she went on further to obtain a project management certification, which she's the only one in our city that has that. So now, today, we have her. She has put in a really incredible system where we manage our projects, and it saves us a lot of time, energy, and money. And the other thing about Mindy, she is one bright individual and just an extremely hard worker. During this COVID-19, we had a challenge of reaching out to our various businesses that on March the 13th, or March the 12th, they were operating as normal. March the 13th, they were not. And so they were in crisis mode. And we were able to set up a website, a phone line for them to call in, let's call it a 911 phone number for our businesses. And Mindy was so much a part of that, instrumental in that, and made a difference in a lot of people's lives, and we just appreciate that. But she's a wonderful person as well, and we really appreciate all that you've done for our city for so many years. Thank you so much.
One, two, three.
25 years of service. Sergeant Brian Nelson. Brian? Colin, you're more than welcome to come in with me if you like. Sergeant Nelson, 25-year police officer in the city of Hoover. His wife Colin is also an employee here. Great folks. But Brian was hired in 1995 as a police officer. 6 years later, he was promoted to sergeant. He's now in the Motor Scout unit. He's been there for 20 years riding that motorcycle. I don't know how he does it, but he really does a wonderful job. He's certified in traffic homicide investigation. He's a member of our Hoover dive team. Just a great guy, just the kind of individual that all of the employees throughout the city of Hoover, they know Brian, they love Brian. It's because of Colin, really. But he's a wonderful police officer. He's very, very dedicated to our city, very, very dedicated to police work. And we just appreciate all that he's done and continues to do. And certainly, we appreciate Colin, and she is in our public safety dispatch, so she gets to tell him where to go every once in a while, anytime he's on duty, right? So Brian, we certainly are thankful for all that you've done, and congratulations on your 25 years.
That's far enough, guys. I'll send this to. Okay, perfect. Slide in, Colin. 1, 2, 3. Good. Thank you.
Sergeant, has you got to get new ballroom dance again? Yes.
Next, with 25 years of service, is Barry Stamps. Barry? And Barry is joined by his wife, Mary. Barry has been a police officer in the city of Hoover since 1995. He currently works in the patrol division and serves as a field training officer, an extremely important position in our city to take officers that are fresh, right out of rookie school, and you want to put them with your best people that have experience, that understand the job, understand the people that they're working for and working with, and you got to have a sharp person to do that, and that's why Barry serves in that position. But he also patrols out in Greystone, so we invited all of these folks from Greystone tonight to welcome you and congratulate you on your 25 years of service with Hoover Police Department. But you can tell he really is a fine gentleman. I can't say enough about his personality in terms of just a very nice man. And we're so glad that he is part of our city and part of our police force. And thank you for everything that you do. And last but not least, Miss Elizabeth, better known as Beth Stanley. Beth, come in, Beth. Beth has worked in our public safety dispatch for 25 years. She's an emergency communications supervisor. Hired in 1995, May 26th, as a part-time public safety dispatcher, and she became full-time in 1996, promoted to public safety telecommunicator in 1999. She's now a shift supervisor with the 9/11 Communications Center, and her primary role is to supervise 9/11 Center personnel, primarily on the day shift. In addition to giving directions and supporting personnel, she ensures that we have proper procedures down there. She handles our staffing needs. She is the liaison between the police department and the fire department. But something else that Beth does, she's so much involved in our standard operating procedures. And Beth, you've certainly seen dispatch change over the last 20 years. In the old days, you answered the telephone and you simply sent the police or the fire to that emergency. Now, it's a lot more to it. Now we give, if you call 911, they may help you deliver a baby, they may help you perform CPR, they may do a myriad of medical procedures or walk you through those procedures, and it's meant saving lots of lives, and she's been involved from the very get-go in establishing so much of that. So we are very grateful for all that you do. Thank you so much. I would like to recognize Chris Reeves. Chris yesterday was our acting city engineer. Today, I would like to present our new city engineer, Chris Reeves. Congratulations. Best thing about Chris is an honorable one. Right, John? Yes, sir. Chris does a tremendous job for us. It's been, engineering is a difficult job in the city of Hoover. We've got hills and dales, we've got water everywhere that shouldn't go where it goes most time, and it does, doesn't it? In spite of what we try to do. But it's a lot more than that. The environmental regulations that we have to deal with that will get us in strict trouble quickly, the sewer problems, all those things fall under Chris, and we're so grateful that he has fallen in as our acting engineer, and we're so happy today to make you and give you that permanent position. Thank you very much.
One, two, three. Thank you, John.
And Mr. Jim White. Jim served for years here as our chief building official. And when Tim left to join his family in Huntsville, Alabama, Jim was on the edge of retirement, and we approached him and asked him if he would be interested in taking over that job, because we knew the kind of person that he is and what he'd done as a building inspector or the building services official. And just has a tremendous amount of knowledge and has the experience that he brings to the table. Started out in the city of Birmingham for probably 25, 30 years. Yeah, 32 years. Moved from there to Homewood, Alabama, directing them for several years. And we were fortunate to get him to come to Hoover about probably 4 years ago. And he was about to retire. He and I were about the same age, and he came to me, and it was grandbaby time. And this opportunity became available, and I'm just so appreciative that we can get a caliber of person like you to continue with an individual that had a great reputation, was an outstanding COO. To have you come in behind him, we're not going to miss a beat, and we haven't missed a beat. He's been operating as the interim, and today we are going to announce that he is permanent. Thank you so much.
One, two, three. Thank you, John.
And we have two individuals that are retiring from our city, Frank and Melinda Lopez. They are on video, Frank and Melinda. Say hello to everyone. But we are, two great individuals, two very, very smart and dedicated employees for the city of Hoover that we love very much. And they have made a decision to retire together, and we just appreciate and wish them all the best. They're just wonderful folks. I wish they were here that you could see them and they could give a farewell speech, but we limited the number of folks, and they really don't like the limelight, to be honest with you. But we're going to miss Frank and Melinda. And one thing I'll say about both of these individuals, we have wonderful employees, very talented employees in the city of Hoover. I can have my back and folks online. Very talented individuals, and one thing you want to do is transition planning, and that's exactly what's taking place in our finance department by both of these individuals. So although we'll miss them, we won't miss a beat, and I wish them both the very best. And they'll be here for some time, a little bit longer, but I didn't want them to not be recognized. And then let's see what we have. I want to announce that we are going to we had budgeted for 2 hazardous waste days, and we're going to bring back 1 hazardous waste day. And we're going to do that on August the 1st from 8 to noon at Hoover Met. So we've left that in the budget, but we do have that day scheduled, and of course, if anything changes, we can certainly do that, okay? And then, finally, something has been brought to my attention, and I feel like I need to address it, and it's primarily to you, Mr. President. I know that this is a campaign year, but I would ask you to please refrain from discussing the retirement of our city employees in social media videos. The employees you mentioned have given decades of exemplary service to our city. They've made a very personal decision to retire together, and that is their business and not ours. You know, when an employee reaches that milestone, it's bittersweet, but it's something that they want to release and to share that wonderful news on their own. Announcing the city employee's retirement on a political video before they have had a chance to share that news, it's just unwarranted and unprofessional. So I would just ask you to please refrain from that. Thank y'all very much, and I would ask Mr. Bryce if he would come up and give a financial report. Appreciate y'all's time. Thank you.
Mr. President, members of the council, thank you for the opportunity to bring you this update tonight. You did receive it by email as we finished the last of the departmental budget conversations late this afternoon. So the good news is you'll get them sooner going forward. We've been waiting until we could get these Monday meetings in to update it, but now you should get them in probably at least at the same time you get your packet for each meeting going forward. Very excited about this report. You'll see a number of changes. I kind of dispensed with the highlighting because the entire page was green, and I think it just was cumbersome to try to read. So we'll walk through it quickly. We did add a statement at the top under the objectives that despite the midpoint that had been identified, the clear guidance from this body was to go for the worst case scenario based on the forecast of Mr. Lopez. And so you'll see that the goal there is $15 million. And the very bottom of the page, you'll see that now we're at that figure. So while we were building and working through the departments, we kept kind of a running tally in that current total space. But now we went ahead and said, well, now we see how we're going to get to 15 million. So that's a change in tonight's report. Under operating reductions, the cuts from the operating budget in our first flyover, kind of 80,000 foot look, we thought we could easily identify $1.4 million. Working with the department heads, we actually have identified $2,861,321. And that, as you'll see the note, that's 204% of that original goal. Extremely proud. I've said it before, I'll continue to say it. Proud and grateful for the work that the departments have done, not only the department heads, but many of their members of their staff have taken this very seriously and have helped us tremendously by identifying on their own areas that they could economize for the remainder of this fiscal year. Savings from unfilled positions continues to climb. Every 2 weeks, we're receiving a report from Mr. Lewis in Human Resources about what is now vacant. We're evaluating that, and with the mayor's guidance, we're determining which ones he would propose to either fill and which ones he would propose to leave vacant. And so anything that is not yet approved to be filled is reflected in that number. So that's an increase to $1,035,916. That is from the time that the position became vacant to the end of the fiscal year. So we are prorating each position and its benefits for the remainder of the fiscal year. Savings from canceled events, you just heard the mayor talk about hazardous waste days. So that number has actually dropped by 75,000. That's the worst case scenario number that we have as an estimate based on past year's billing. May not be that much, but we do think that with everybody pent up in the house for several weeks, we know they've been cleaning up their yard, we know they've been cleaning out the basement and the garage, and I'm sure all of you have had people approach you about household hazardous waste day. We certainly have. We think there's going to be a tremendous volume of materials brought forward this year. So we are at the top end of that estimate. Savings from overtime remains at $501,000, and we're working diligently with department heads to be sure that that's managed so that we can meet that target. We did find one more small project on the capital projects list that we felt like qualifies for the ESCO contract, so that increases that total of $306,860. That makes the total from operating in this proposed plan $5,347,955, or 36% of the total $15 million. I do want to make a comment at the end though about the cash line that's at the bottom of capital, because that could affect that. Going in, are there any questions on operating before we go forward?
I did, Mr. President, I have one. Are you taking, of course, we're in April, so we're not in fourth quarter yet, but are you taking into consideration the current, balance that you have in operating in your month to month? I know we have quite a significant amount that we're not spending month to month right now. I think we're up to, I think it's around 6. It generally would be a transfer to the capital projects fund. Are you taking that into account somewhere maybe off balance sheet to where that would replace some of these capital costs and we can take that number down?
It's a great question, and so the way that is working, Mr. Posey, is all of what you're seeing in this plan is based on budgeted figures, but we're also, and we cleaned some of this up, we took some of the control measures off because you'd seen those for several weeks. I think you guys are familiar with those, but one of those is executive review of purchasing, and so it's two different totals. One is the amount of money that's left in a budget line item, and the other through purchasing controls is the amount of money that's allowed to be spent from that line item.
Okay.
That'll create that difference that you're referring to.
Right.
So as we come into the final couple of weeks of the fiscal year, we certainly hope to create an additional windfall through purchasing and spending control that we then would apply to this final report, and it would have the effect that you described.
Okay, great.
Yes, sir. Any other questions on operating?
Mr. Rice, I would like to say that I am happier that move that 3-to-1 figure closer to 2-to-1.
Yes, sir. And we think that'll, I'm sorry.
I appreciate that.
Yes, sir. And we think that'll continue to improve. There are several items of follow-up that a few department heads are doing for us. Different projects that may be finished, that they need to go back and make sure all invoices were paid. So when we get those, we think it'll continue to get the way that you want to see it, where it'll be a better balance of capital to operate. So thank you for that. Quickly in the capital, you're aware that we eliminated vehicle purchases. We did find a few more dollars there, so we're up to $537,000 saved there. Capital project closeouts increased by $50,000, and that's where we also might see some money turned back in that we haven't accounted for yet. So we're at $332,917. That's leftover money from capital projects that are finished that'll be turned back into the budget. I'm going to skip the next number and go down to the cash to $3 million. So that is shown out of capital because it currently sits in a capital fund. It kind of could fall on either side of the line. It just depends on where you all decided to allocate it. So that $3 million, if you look at the bottom line number of 9.3 versus the 5.3 from operating, well, $3 million of that 9.3 is cash that we have on hand that just sits in a fund labeled capital. So that can be a little bit distorting, but going back up, the 5,782,128 savings from potential canceled capital projects, you'll notice that you don't have a second page this time with a list of capital projects. That's been replaced by the email that you all received last week that has the capital projects, all the general fund capital project group 1, 2, 3. So instead of attaching that entire document, you all already have that. And I'll just reiterate that those groupings are preliminary and subject to the approval of the council. So I think we might want to have a discussion at maybe Chairman Lighta's behest at some point about some type of a work session, or however you choose to handle that, Mr. Lighta, that we hear from you all your priorities about what should be group 1, group 2, group 3. The day will come, unfortunately, that we'll probably be before you saying, whenever we need 1.2 million or we need 3.9 or whatever the numbers fall out to. And we just want to have clear guidance from the council when that day arrives, which projects you believe should be defunded, discontinued, and the money transferred to operating, if we get there. Questions on any of the report?
Mr. Rice, I know we received our April financials today.
Yes, sir.
I haven't had a chance to look at them yet. Do you know what total expenditures were for the month of April?
I have also not looked at them yet, sir.
I guess those may really be March's prices.
They'd be March's expenditures reported in April, yes, sir. But I also have not had time to look at that email yet. But we'll illuminate that for you tomorrow for sure.
You still anticipate having the line item information by the next meeting?
We do. We completed those final departmental meetings today, and so that's being updated as we speak. May be ready as early as tomorrow. We want to come back through it one more time, make sure everything balances. And so I know there was some conversation with individual council members. I think we're all on the same page. What we're hoping to do, and I think it's the will of the body, is that we will take that spreadsheet that Mr. Smith is describing, and that is every cut, account by account, department by department. So it'll show you specifically which line item it's coming from in the approved budget. And our plan is to submit that to the clerk for an agenda item for next, the first June meeting, and request a budget amendment. And I think it's the way to do it. A couple of you have mentioned that that's your preference. I fully agree. Two reasons. One is it would be a tracking nightmare for finance to keep up with, well, the money's still technically in the budget, but we said we're gonna cut it. That just wouldn't work. Secondly, we would wind up, by error, at some point in an operation of our size, we would wind up spending some money that we said we were gonna cut. No malfeasance on anybody's part. That would just happen if we don't take the money out of the budget. So our thought, and I think your thought, is to take it out. And if we say we're cutting it, cut it. Set it back into the fund and operate on the money that's reflected in this reduced budget. So is that?
When did you indicate that the itemized information would be available?
It may be tomorrow. I don't want to
I
overcommit.
just make sure that we had enough time as individuals to go through it before we're
Yes,
asked
sir.
to pass the budget.
Absolutely, and if, our request would be the next opportunity, but certainly it could be at any point in time that you feel the body's ready. And if we need to have conversations or discussions or a committee meeting, whatever is appropriate, we'll certainly do that. Thank you.
Any other questions? Dr. Middlebrooks, you're still on the line? Do you have any questions?
Still here, no question.
Very good. Didn't want you to think we forgot about you. All right, ready for our consent agenda. These are the items that we consider basically housekeeping in nature. They were gone over Thursday in great detail. I have been advised that the administration would like to continue item 12, resolution 6320. There's still some legalese needs to be worked out on that. So as we consider consent agenda, let's remove item 12. Mr. Corley, items 7 through 13 without 12.
Yes, sir. Item 7 is the payment of bills. Item number 8 is resolution number 624920, which authorizes the participation of the city of Hoover in the 2020 back-to-school sales tax holiday to be held from Friday, July 17th, 2020 until Sunday, July 19th, 2020. Item 9 is resolution number 6250-20. This resolution accepts public improvements within the public road right-of-way for the Lake Cyrus 10th Sector 5th Edition. Resolution 625120 authorizes the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Alabama Department of Transportation for certain improvements on Interstate 65 within the city limits of Hoover. Resolution 625220 authorizes the mayor to dispose of the firearms training system, fixed asset number 4012, by disposal recycling with VIRTRA to trade in for a new system for the new police training facility under the terms of a GSA contract. And item 13, resolution 625420, authorizes the mayor to enter into an agreement with the SHI for Microsoft licensing true-up in substantial form attached to the resolution.
Mr. President, I move for approval of all items on the consent agenda with the exception of number 12, which will be withheld because of. Second.
Have a motion and a second. This being a consent agenda, there is no conversation. So, member would like to have any item removed. Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Green?
Aye.
Mr. Lyda? Mr. Murphy?
Aye.
Mr. Posey?
Aye.
Mr. Shaw?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye. All items on the consent agenda are passed. Next, we have first readings. First, we have ordinance 20-2480. This will be a first reading, and I'll have further comment after the reading. Corey?
Sir, ordinance number 20-2480 amends ordinance number 09-2183 to establish voting locations for all municipal elections to be held in the city of Hoover.
Mr. President, I move that we suspend the rules for ordinance number 20-2480 for immediate consideration. Second.
Okay, very good. The reason that we're doing this is, one of our polling sites has had a name change. The address is staying the same, but the name has changed, I believe down in Ross Bridge. And, so we need to have that correct, and we're coming up on the deadline to be able to get that to the state. So thus, creates a need for us to suspend the rules. We need a roll call to suspend.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Roll call?
Yes. Mr. Green?
Aye.
Mr. Lyda?
Aye.
Dr. Middlebrooks?
Aye.
Mr. Murphy?
Aye.
Mr. Posey?
Aye.
Mr. Shaw?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye. We have voted to suspend the rules, and now we have called a question.
Mr. President, I call the question. Move for approval of ordinance number 20-2480. Second.
Motion and second. Any comments or questions from the council, from the audience? Seeing and hearing none, Madam Clerk, please start the roll.
Mr. Green?
Aye.
Mr. Lyda?
Aye.
Dr. Middlebrooks?
Aye.
Mr. Murphy?
Aye.
Mr. Posey?
Aye.
Mr. Shaw?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye. The ordinance is adopted. Next, we have ordinance 20-2481. This will be considered on June 1st, council meeting. Corey.
Ordinance number 20-2481 alters, rearranges, and extends the corporate limits of the city of Hoover to include the property owned by Vernon and Kim Starling at 1921 Shannon Road.
That handles the first reading. Now we have, first reading on ordinance 20-2482 for the annexation of some property, Mr. Corley.
Ordinance number 20-2482 alters, rearranges, and extends the corporate limits of the city of Hoover to include the property owned by AJH Properties LLC at 5400 and 5410 Saddle Creek Lane.
This will be held for a public hearing and likely vote on June 1st as well. Ordinance 20-2478, Mr. Corley.
This ordinance pre-zones the property at 1921 Shannon Road to Hoover C1 Neighborhood Shopping District. This ordinance shall become effective upon the passage by the city council and approval of the mayor and the publication of the ordinance as required by law, as well as the annexation of this property into the city of Hoover.
We have a presentation on this ordinance. This is the Greystone property, correct? Or on Shannon, okay. All right, anyone here to provide a presentation from the Starlings? All right, we'll move on to the first reading for a public hearing and likely vote for ordinance 20-2478.
Ordinance number 20-2478 pre-zones the property at 5400 and 5410 Saddle Creek Lane to Hoover PRD or Planned Residential Development. This ordinance shall become effective upon the passage by the city council and approval of the mayor, the publication of the ordinance as required by law, and the annexation of this property into the city of Hoover.
Very good. I understand that the applicant has a presentation be in a position to ask questions tonight, but not the public, unless y'all want to talk about it at some other period, but not during the meeting itself. So, Mr. Beavers, would like to introduce yourself as if you need to.
Good evening, Mr. President, council members. My name is Charlie Beavers, and it's my pleasure to be here representing the applicant, AJH Properties. Alan Howard is the principal of the applicant, and he's here. Others who are here tonight who will be available to answer any questions that you might have, or Mr. Roy Gilbert, who represents the Gilbert family. The Gilbert family owns the property and is contracted to sell the property to Alan's company, and Alan will be the developer. We also have Wade Lowry here from EPG Engineering, civil engineer for the development. He's available to answer questions that you might have with respect to that aspect of the property. We also, I believe, have Troy Walco, who is the president of the Legacy, and Alicia Huey, who is the past president of the Legacy. If you have any questions of them with respect to the one aspect of the development that we'll be talking about. Also, Clark Parker is participating with Gilbert of the homes. If you have any questions in particular about the architectural style, improvements to be made in the home, he's available to answer questions about that as well. See, I think y'all all have this packet. And I will use that as we go through presentation. I would like, before getting to those in particular, just to give some general information about the property. As I said, it is under contract for purpose, contingent on rezoning and annexation. It's approximately 36 acres, 36.45 acres. It is currently in unincorporated Shelby County, zoned agricultural and holding zone. We're asking for rezoning PRD. Under PRD, currently, I'll briefly go over the provisions of PRD and explain how we don't intend to go that far with it. PRD would allow 4 lots per the acre, 20-foot front setbacks and 25 rear and 5-foot side setbacks. It would allow 60-foot wide lots, 1,500 square foot homes at one level and 1,800 square foot homes in excess of one level. What was initially proposed when this first started going through the process, and there's an exhibit in the package to look at, was for 97 lots, 65 feet wide. There have been meetings with numbers of neighbors, by my folks, about the details of the development and some changes that we'll show you that have been made. And now the proposal has been reduced by 16 lots down to 81 lots at a 2.2 lot per acre density. The lot widths will be 75 feet instead of the 65 that originally were proposed, and the 60 that would be allowed otherwise under the zoning category. The homes will be a minimum of 2,500 square feet for 1 story instead of the zoning allowed for 1,500, and there will be 2,800 to 4,000 square feet for 2 story and 1.5 story, as opposed to 1,800 feet that would be permitted under the code. So they're making it substantially different in that regard, and much higher standards than even the code would particularly allow. If you would look at I see that they're not numbered, but the first page in this packet that we have shows the layout, site plan for the property. And as I go through these, I'll just point out some of the changes that have been made, and I'll show you a drawing that shows what was originally proposed. You see down at the bottom right, there's kind of a jagged parcel that's there. That was originally not shown as a part of the development, and as you'll see in a subsequent exhibit, that is now going to be buffer area. Entirely that will be purchased by the developer, incorporated as part of this buffer area. The site data table is at the top of that particular page. It shows square footages, numbers of lots and the like, and square footages for each of the lots are shown on the drawing itself. You'll see some of these get quite large. We'll focus on those in a little bit. Lots 22 through 30 along the back line there have been increased in size. The others, we believe, are consistent with lot sizes and create an overall density consistent with other portions of the Greystone development in the area. The next page is a tree save area. It's based on a plan, the old plan, but it shows some green, existing green in the area, and I'll elaborate on that with another exhibit. The next two pages takes 2 pages to get this development plan on something the size you can read because it's kind of elongated. But it shows, has superimposed on it an overhead photo, aerial photos showing area improvements adjacent to portions of the development. If you look on the first of these 2 pages, you see kind of in the middle, at the top of the development plan, there's kind of a triangular piece, and the lots, back lot lines are kind of rounded off back there. Originally, these lots were designed to go all the way to that back line, as you'll see in the older plan, and that has been brought back to create a permanent buffer area. There's also a buffer area along the entire, as you drive in the driveway to the left, behind those lots leading up to that triangular part, there's a buffer area there as well, setbacks. You can see, I think we turn the page, it picks up the rest of the page to the right part of that first page. So page 2 of this development plan, you see in yellow, these are the buffer areas. There's one at the very top of the page. There's a buffer area toward the middle by the lake. And then to the bottom right corner, you can see a buffer area which includes the appendage to the development that I mentioned earlier. Going back to the top of the page, you see those lots have been increased in size. The cul-de-sacs have been moved approximately 60 feet away from the back property line from the original development plan. And then you can see where the cut is going to be at the bottom edge, the rounded edge of the tree save area, buffer area of those several lots. That's where there will be a cut and some grading. It will not go beyond that toward the buffer area, which will be left alone. That slides all these houses forward and away from the back lines of these lots and away from the homes that back up to this particular part of the development. And you can see that if you go to the back right corner, the lake gets up into that area, but all around the lake is just a common area that will be left alone. That's for the benefit, particularly, well, that does benefit in particular the homes that are adjacent to the area from off-site in that area. And in the bottom right, same sort of concept, creating a buffer area undisturbed between the back lines of those lots and some minor grading that will be done in that area for those lots that will take those lots down some in elevation. But we'll not get into that area where the tree save is marked in yellow, and that's to provide some buffer. You can see it's quite extensive in the bottom right there as well, similarly to the extensive buffer that's provided at the top of the page.
Beavers, how many feet is that buffer on the bottom right between the development and the back of those homes?
That dotted line to the right, it was just inside the back property line, I believe is 40 feet. Try to get this right. Width of this buffer here.
Looks like the scale is 1 inch to 60 feet, Mr. President, if that helps.
Okay, thank you.
Does that answer the question? That's the distance between there.
That's good.
I'll give that right.
If you look, kind of to the right, to the bottom right-hand, area, you see the cul-de-sac, if you kind of parallel the cul-de-sac, and to the far right, the boundary of the property kind of comes to a triangular point. I'm saying that's approximately 100 feet there. That's maybe the widest part of it. It goes down from that area.
Thank you.
The next page shows the original layout with 97 lots. We just started, it might be helpful to see the extent to which the developers tried to go to respond to the input that he has received from some of the area residents. And again, you can see the lots kind of at that triangle point above lot 11. Did go all the way to the back line. He's brought that down and created a buffer. He's created some buffer along the backs of lots 1 through 10 as well. And then again, you see how the lots did configure. Lots 24 through 27 and around. We look at the next page. Brought those cul-de-sacs down 60 feet from where they're showing there. That cul-de-sac, and you turn the page, the next page 2 of that original plan, it was brought back, the second cul-de-sac was brought back 60 feet from the back line as well, and created those buffer areas, tree safe areas for benefit of adjacent property owners. And again, if you look at the bottom right area, they didn't have that appendage in there for additional buffer for the benefit of the homes that were to the right of that part of the development. And then you go up above that, on the far right side, they had lots kind of extending across this property line, and he's brought those all in. When we go back to the new development plan, to get those further away and create more buffer for the homes that are up in that area as well. So the effort has been to create buffer, to create space between this development and the neighbors. And I'll continue, but if y'all have any questions, of course, anytime. The next sheet just gives a chart of the densities in the immediately areas that are in the immediate area. Legacy Place, 36 lots on 13.31 acres is a density of 2.7 acres. Lots to the acre. The Haven, 80 lots, 31.17 acres, has an average density of 2.57 lots to the acre. The Legacy Lakes, number 3 on that sheet, that's the subject. It's 81 lots, and it's now, I said 36 when we added that appendage there at the bottom right of the site plan, it brought it up to 37.12 acres. That's 2.1 lots to the acre. The total average is 2.41. So they're well within the averages of those particular sectors within the legacy, or those communities within the legacy sector. The Founders is below that, and just if you go, you can see the charts. The largest is 1.81, the larger lots, Rosemont Road, 1.81 lots to the acre, and then it goes down, Bradstock 2.3, Park 2.76, Linkside 3.63, and St. Ives 2.55. I point out that Rosemont is in the area where there are extensive buffers, where the roads have been moved way away to create extensive wide buffers and no disturbance buffers up against those particular lots. The next few pages are just aerial photos that you can take a look at. I didn't plan to spend any time on it, but I thought it might be helpful just to get a bird's eye view of what the other developments in the immediate area look like, how their houses are spaced, and how they develop. Legacy Place is the first, 2.7 lots to the acre. Then the Haven, which is 2.57 lots to the acre. Rosemont, which we were just speaking about, 1.81 lots to the acre, but if we go back in a second and just look at the site development plan, you'll see the extensive buffering has been incorporated there. The Park, 2.76, see how it's laid out. And Bradstock, which is one removed from the site by the Rosemont portion of the existing development to 2.3. And finally, they have one more, Lakeside, 3.63. St. Ives at 2.55. Again, all of the subject development compared, we think, very well with what's in the immediate area, particularly when considering the buffers that are being provided for. The next page, after all of that, is the vicinity map, just to give a broader view of how this fits in with the area, and look at the lot sizes, and the buffers that are being offered by the subject. We think it compares extremely well to what is in the immediate area, and what the development schemes generally been in that area. The next page, the next two pages are some elevations to show you the type of construction, the type of design that is planned for these lots. These will sell at an average of $600,000 purchase price, with very high end. How many dollars per square foot? Around $230 a square foot range. Construction very high end, both inside and out. The Legacy Homeowners Association has looked at the development and has considered whether it would like to have it become a part of the Legacy. And my understanding is they've said yes. And we have a past president and current president of that association here. If you have any questions of them, and we just show what the annual revenue would be to that homeowner association, $121,500. This is a rough estimate of what the actual out-of-pocket cost until the road needs to be resurfaced, which will come sometime about 18 years down the line. So it'll be a good financial circumstance for the Legacy if they do join. My client's committee right now to join and be subject to their covenants, and is often be subject to all of the covenants for architectural amenities, controls, and standards that are in Greystone. And if for any reason the Legacy said, no, we changed our mind, we don't want you in, then he will still commit to those exact covenants with respect to architectural design control, and will set his association documents, covenants up based on the Greystone covenants. We'll mirror those. And his filed documents say that from that. If you would, if we can go back to the fourth and fifth pages, which are the colored aerial photos showing the site plan superimposed on an aerial photo, just to highlight some of the what we think are very positive aspects of the development that have come about as they've discussed this with neighbors and heard input. We moved the two cul-de-sacs 60 feet to create larger lots and increase the buffer area. Those lots at the top of page 2 that you can see, almost cul-de-sacs, which are up against the larger lots in the area adjacent to it, 36,000 feet, 20,000 feet, 19,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet respectively. They're very large lots, and there's a significant buffer there. The natural buffers in all those areas are tree-safe areas and are intended to protect view of folks who probably have gotten used to looking at the woods in areas that don't have houses behind their houses. And they're trying to accommodate protecting as much of that type of experience as can be done. Let's see here.
Mr. Beavers, could we
Yes.
go to the slide prior to the one that's there now? I believe. Okay. The private road, as it shows on our map, down in the bottom left, is that the guard gate time left?
Yes. That folks will access this and go through the guard gate. The covenants on record that grant that right, done way back when the owners of the property was supposed to be developed, worked out access to some of the properties that are developed in that area of Old Greystone. It was agreed that they would have access to any development that they would put on the southern property. So they would be coming in and out of the gate with the same kind of restrictions as other Greystone residents.
Thank you.
I believe that covers everything that we wanted to present. Again, we have engineers,
Mr. Howard, do you have
others here.
anything you want to add?
Mr. Chair, this is Max.
Have a toy walkout through
I want to make a quick note, that, in our discussion at work session, it was mentioned that, setbacks were adjusted, and as Mr. Beavers points out, going back through, the before and after, it was not the setbacks that were adjusted, it was the minimum lot width that was adjusted. So we had, a couple of major adjustments. One, we had a reduction in the number of lots. Secondly, we had an incorporation of a larger buffer area. And third, we had an adjustment to the lot width, the minimum lot width from 65 feet to 75 feet. So just wanted to make sure that was safe for the record.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Mike, that's correct. So I was gonna say, Legacy HOA board president is present here, Troy Volkow, and I was gonna ask him to say something about what the Legacy thinks.
If he's not tied to the project, I'd
Okay.
rather him wait until
Okay, well then if you had a
the
question.
public hearing. Unless anybody, if the body has a question. Anyone from the council? Thank you. Any questions from the council?
I just have one quick one. Mr. Beavers, the density that you mentioned, does that take into account the lake as
Yes.
part of the overall density?
It does, and the density, we had that number, if you take the lake out, this is, it's gonna be a little less than this, it's 2.4, but that's without adding that little piece to the bottom right, so it's about 2.4 if you take the lake out.
Okay.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
Stevens, the citizens, and rightfully so, in a development like this, are always concerned about increased traffic flow. Have there been any studies on that at this time?
Our engineer investigated that, bring him up here. And one thing I'll point out while he's coming is that, this development is right at the gate. Traffic does not need to go through any other part of Greystone to get in and out of this development. It's right there. There won't be through traffic going in the other roads to get in and out of this particular development.
I'm Wade Lowry, I'm with Engineering Design Group. The traffic, we have a traffic study, and it has been performed by Skipper Consulting. We work with them, kind of a right hand of AlDOT. We use them basically on every project that we work on, traffic studies. Unfortunately, I don't have a copy of that study with me tonight, so I can't answer the question on the number of traffic counts.
Can you share that study with the council electronically?
Yes, I'm sure that we can get a copy of that, and then, should the project move forward, that would be a consideration of the technical data that we produce for staff engineers to review for the project.
So is that a yes or no? All right, thank you. Any other questions from the council?
Mr. President, yes, police and fire, have, our fire chief and police chief looked into this, if there be any problems and coverage there should this pass.
Station 9 is right down the private road from there. And, so I would think that they're covered, but we obviously need to hear from the chiefs, at the next meeting without a doubt. We're just making an observation. police department. I don't think there's anyone here. Is there anyone on the call that could speak to that for the police department?
I'm not seeing,
Okay.
the XL or the chief.
All right. Well, we'll try to make sure that there's a representative to speak to that at the next meeting.
I can confirm with the civil engineer that this has been designed absolutely to all the city specs, respect street radiuses, turns, cul-de-sacs and all, so that it would accommodate fire trucks and emergency vehicles.
Any other questions? Thank you, gentlemen. We will see you on June 1st.
Thank you.
Item 19, ordinance 20-2479, Mr. Corwin.
This ordinance amends the zoning ordinance for the city of Hoover, Alabama to allow for special defense within the city as set forth therein.
All right, this will also be heard with a likely vote on June 1st. Comments and questions. I have been contacted by Mr. Arnold Singer earlier today. He is on the call and he has sent Mr. Cope a presentation that I believe he would like to speak with us about. Mr. Singer, are you with us?
Arnold, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, yes.
Okay, great.
Can you put a microphone close to that?
Create a new feed.
could you email a copy of your presentation to the city clerk so she can disseminate it?
I have it, and I've emailed it to all of y'all.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Singer.
Mr. President, I would
Yes, sir.
say that, we've had an eye on this as a council, as a financial group, and I know Mr. Rice has as well. I think, looking at possible scenarios, we're probably looking at $110 to $115 million budget next year, so it will be significantly lower. But I do think there are measures in place that we've looked at and things that we can do, delay, kind of what we're looking at now to prevent from going into those savings. And I know that Mr. Rice is currently talking with department heads about this because we are anticipating that cut and possibly a cut in the next year in 22 as well. So we have our eye on it, we're looking at it, and I think we've got a solid plan, working collectively moving forward to get there, and I think you'll see that in the budget hearings this summer.
Any other comments or questions from the council?
Mr. Singer is speaking.
Yes?
The conversation that's taking place in your neighborhood, is coming to a very intellectual. So I can't tell what is actually being said.
And Mr. Singer, we're having trouble ourselves hearing you. I think we did more reading along than we were able to do listening. Perhaps you can have some one-on-one conversations with us over the next few days. Any other comments or questions from the council on this or any other subject? Anything from the audience? Yes, sir. You come down, give your name and street name.
Thank you, sir. My name is Ray Fitzpatrick. I live at 8034 Castle Hill Road in the city of Hoover. My office is at 1200 Corporate Drive, also in the city of Hoover. I represent the Greystone Residential Association, the founder's side, which is 880 homes. I just want to comment very briefly on the matter that's set for public hearing on June 1st. The Greystone Founders, as you know, is significantly impacted by the proposed development. Although it runs through the gate next to Legacy, it makes its way all the way adjacent to several Greystone Founders streets. And there are probably about 15 Founders homes that are immediately adjacent to the proposed development. In addition, I represent Mr. Johnny Wright, and I don't have the benefit of the drawings here, but Mr. Wright owns a home that is immediately next to the proposed project on 3 acres. This project surrounds his house on 3 sides. So from his house, he will be looking into the backyards on 3 sides of his house of these houses that are proposed to be built. While buffers may have been adjusted in other places, there were no buffers adjusted next to Mr. Wright's house. And the impact of this development on Mr. Wright's house is enormous. His house is in a group of estate-sized houses that are all just adjacent to this proposed project. And in our view, those houses are mostly on 2 to 3 acre lots, and they'll be sitting next to this higher density development, which is, in our view, entirely inconsistent with adjacent development. I haven't seen, if there were changes made in the development plan between the P&Z hearing and today, I haven't seen those changes. And so we'll get that and comment on it. But I did point out to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and I'll say again today, the application that we saw originally filed utterly fails to meet the standards of your PRD zoning ordinance, which requires a far, far more detailed application than regular zoning classifications do.
One second, please. Is Mr. Martin still on the call? to, this gentleman's accusal that the application does not meet the requirements of the city.
I would need a detailed explanation of what he is referring to, because the application packet that we received and processed from the very beginning appeared to us to have met the minimum requirements.
I will be happy over the next 2 weeks to send you a written, detailed description of exactly how the application that I've seen. Now, if Mr. Beavers sent something else to you in the meantime, I haven't seen that, but from what I saw in the P&Z process, it doesn't meet the standards of your ordinance that what's required to be submitted to meet PRD zoning.
I'm sure we'll be happy to receive it.
I will get that.
And I did not know that Mr. Beavers was representing the applicant until he came in tonight.
Yeah, he was here at the P&Z hearing. He
I was not.
had just been hired that day, I think.
Okay.
So I'm not accusing Charlie of drafting an inadequate application. but-
One question for you. Did you bring this up to the Planning and Zoning Commission?
I did.
And how did they respond?
Charlie said that he had not yet had an opportunity to look at that, and the city attorney did not have any comment on it. She was unable to respond.
Anybody else, any other city official?
No other city official commented. Mr. Martin, to my recollection, was not at the meeting.
Do we know who filled in for Mac at the meeting? Jim, do you know who filled in for Mac at that meeting?
I don't know who was there.
Okay. Just curious.
The typical staff, Mr. Posey absent, Mr. Martin. Mr. Martin was sick that night.
Okay.
And again, I didn't want to speak for a long time because I know this is not the time. There are a lot of people who are very interested in this. I'm told that there were a lot of people who tried to log on tonight who were unable to access the Zoom meeting. We've just been getting some feedback here from people who said that, including Mr. Wright, who was very interested in this.
So we'll have Mr. Cope look into that.
Again, this is a matter of, when I heard traffic mentioned earlier, nobody said anything about the traffic that's going to get dumped onto 119. There's no traffic light there. It's already a pretty tough place to get out of in the morning, and now they're talking about increasing the density of that subdivision significantly. And in any of the traffic information that was filed with the original application, I don't think it adequately addressed the issue of impacts at the corner of 119. We'll be here in 2 weeks. I'll try to get a lot of information moving your way in the meantime. We appreciate your consideration of the people in Greystone and Mr. Wright. Thank you.
I believe June 1st is going to be a Chick-fil-A night. We may be ordering in. Anyone else from the public care to speak this evening? Anything else from the council? I guess I'm going to again, Mr. Mayor, you took an eloquent time giving me a pretty good scolding at the end of your representation. Obviously, you're not privy to the conversations nor communications held by myself. And I can understand why you'd be pretty upset about that information getting out.